You're tuned in to a Georgian College podcast, brought to you by the School of Computer Studies. All right, so welcome to the second part of this screencast on Practical 2 assignment. We're still talking about part 1, and in this particular stage, we're going to look at planning for the coding part. So again, this is my my wonderful superhero logo and the final version of it. But as you notice, I haven't put my superhero name here, which you will have to do when you hand in. And as well, I haven't really described my superhero, which you will also need to do. And in the last time, I introduced you the sketching page, which you can download to make a sketch like this, which you will have to hand in. I'd like you to design and plan and think about it before coding. All right, so we looked at this in the first screencast. And now it's time to formalize this a bit more. And as you notice, I had started to look at and to write about what elements there are on my sketch. So let's make that a bit formal. So as you notice, I have one square, two diagonal lines, two big circles, four small circles, the letter G that I've identified as elements, components of my logo. All right, so let's do that. Let me just formalize that. So I have one square, I have two diagonal lines, I have two big circles, there are four small circles, and the letter G. Yes, today this screencast is brought to you by the letter G. All right, so I've started that, and again, let's just go back here for a second, and again, notice that that's what exactly I wrote down is what I have. Now the point here now is to dig deeper into the sketch and to look closer at it. So you notice I had put 100, 100, right? 100, 100. That is the top left corner of my square. So there's a few things we need to take from the grid so that we can begin to take our sketch and move into some coding. But again, before we code, we want to plan, because it will make us more efficient when we begin coding. So here we are. I know that in terms of my my square, I have it starting at 100 on the horizontal, 100 on the vertical. So it's 100 on the X, 100 on the Y, because X is on the horizontal and Y is on the vertical. I also noted that my square has a width of 200 pixels and also a height of 200 pixels. All right, so we're going to record that. So here's my square. Top left corner is 100, 100. Width of 200. Height of 200. And that's going to be important later as we actually code, because that's what we have to specify for a square or a rectangle. All right, so let's get to look at the diagonal lines. So there's two of them. Now, if we look at this logo, this sketch, you'll notice it doesn't quite look like a line, but what I actually did and know what I'm going to be doing is that I'm making a line that stretches from one corner of the square to the other. And in fact, what it is the circles which will be filled in are covering. So I draw the line first, and then I cover with the circles. So it looks like there are actually four lines, but actually there's only two lines. Little kind of trick there. We draw a line and we cover it. So I know in this case that my first line here, I'm going to start with this one, starts at 100, 100 and goes all the way to this, which in this case is the corner of the square at 300, 300. So 300 on the X and 300 on the Y. And so for lines are specified a bit differently. So we go from 100, 100 to 300, 300. All right, and again, points on the grid are specified as an XY pair. X first, Y next. X being horizontal, Y being vertical, and every point is specified as an XY because it's a two-dimensional grid. Now the next one, I'll start from this corner then. If we read that, you'll notice that it's 100 on the X and 300 on the Y. And then it'll go to 300 on the X and 100 on the Y. So that's how we're going to specify that. So we go from 300, 100, to 100, 300. Perfect. So we got it. We have our diagonal lines. We specified that. Great. Let's look at the circles now. Circles are a bit different in the way they're specified. So we're looking at this big circle and then this other smaller big circle. Smaller big circle. Yeah, so let's take a look at the circles. Actually, circles are specified by a center, you know, like right about there for these ones, and a radius, like how far from the center is sort of the outline of the circle. So in this case, they both have a center of 200 on the X and 200 on the Y. So we're going to specify that. So I'll call it big circle 1 maybe. And I'm going to say center is 200, 200. Radius of, so how far from the center. So we'll take a look at the bigger one first. So every one of these grid lines is 10. So from, sorry, let's do it again. So from the middle, we're going to count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So all the way to the circle edge is 60. Now, big circle number 2 is very similar in that the center is also 200, 200. They share the same center. The radius is different. All right. So in this case, the radius is different, but they have the same center. So in this case, it's 10, 20, 30, 40. All right. So that has a radius of 40. Okay. So we've got those lines, we've got those numbers, that's very important. Let's take a look at the smaller circles now. And I'll just say small circle 1. What is its center? And what is the radius? So we're going to begin from the one at the very top, this one right here. So if we take a look at it, what's the center? Right, that's the center right there. You can see my cursor. And its x value is 200, and its y value is 120. So it's 100, 110, 120. So center is 200, 120. All right. So 200 and 120. What's its radius? Let's take a look at that. What is the radius of the small circles? So again, if that's the center and we're going to the outside, well, it's just 10. This is one line on the grid, another line up, that's 10. So it's a radius of 10. So, but if you look at the smaller circles, they all are all the same size. So they all have the same radius. So we don't have to worry about, you know, picking up the radius for the other ones. And because they're all going to be the same, I'm just going to copy and paste. Change that. So the only difference will be what are the centers. Right, so we'll have to figure out what the centers are for each of the other circles. So let's go on a clockwise rotation here. So we're going to look at this one, and again, so this is my center for circle. If I just go up the grid, I'm at 280. So right, that's 280, and my y is 200. Right there, 280, 280, and 200. For the next one. So 280, 200. All right, so next one, this one. I have an x of 200 and a y of, well, that's 280. So it's 200, 280. And lastly, this one right here. is, no, this one is an x of 120 and a y of 200. So 120 and 200. So now I got all my circles there. That's perfect. Got my square. We got all the different numbers I need, the dimensions and the locations. Very important. Letter G, the G on the other hand, that's a bit different from the way the other ones are specified. And we'll look at that closer in the next two screencasts. That one requires a bit of playing around. It's not as specific as the other ones, but we'll look at that very soon. All right, so again, here's our sketch. Here's where we want to get to. But before we get to that, we want to plan, and here's our plan. And then we're getting close to begin coding. All right, so in the next screencast, we'll begin to look at how to actually take that and make it into code. All right, so see you in a bit.